All right, so I'm always talking about regular expressions. I wanted to show you how I use those to web scrape. I need to get better at web scraping, and I'm sure this is not the most efficient way to do it, but this is what I know how to do. So I've gone to Udemy, I've looked up courses on Snowflake. So because these are links, it can get tricky to copy paste them. I'll hit F12. This works in Edge, this works in Chrome. For Mac users, I'm sorry. Here you've got the raw HTML file up in doctype HTML. Right click the topmost line here. Where's that? Copy the outer HTML. If I open any text editor, I can paste all that in there. You'll see I'm getting the raw elements of that website that make up what you see. So I can close out of here, pull this to the left like so, and combine both the visual elements with the HTML elements to extract the information I want. So let's say I want the course name and the price. I'm going to look for a course name that's going to be unique. Ultimate Snowflake Snow Pro. I don't think anyone would name a coding element that, so I'll look for that real quick. Found it. So here it is. It's in a container with class UD link neutral. Doesn't help me much. Oh, here, it's in a div with class card title module. So I'll copy, maybe I'll copy. Yes, it's in a div with the class card title module. Anywhere that has a div container that looks like this with a couple new lines, and then let me put some parentheses around this so that I can recall the group. This is called a back reference. And since I only have one group, it's $1 here. And I can replace all instances of this with pressing the Enter key twice and then replacing this element right here. So I'll hit Replace All, and you'll see, yeah, the card title modules are now on their own separate lines. So the next thing I want to see is the price. I see some 99s. Everything seems to end in 99. So let me just look for something that ends in a dot and then 99. Find that. And it looks like if I have an element that is in between a span, has a $sign, a couple digits, and then .99, I'm going to find the prices of what I'm looking for. It might not always be 99, so I'm going to be careful here with what I select. I'm going to select span within the greater than less than brackets. It closes, then the escaped $sign symbol, a digit 1 or 2 times, a decimal point, escaped period, then a digit again. This should always be 2 times. Yeah, there's 2 after the decimal point in American dollars at least. I'm finding what I want, so I'm going to group this with some regular parentheses. Do the same thing again. Press Enter twice and return this entire group. Hit Replace All there, and my card titles and my spans are separated from, or on separate lines. This can allow me to get rid of other elements that I'm not looking for. So I've noticed that a lot of the text, just raw text of this HTML file, has tabs and white spaces in front of it. That's very good for formatting, but right now I'm not looking for formatting. I'm looking to web scrape. So if a sentence starts with a white space character one or more times to the end of that line, I'm going to get rid of it, like so. And you know why that doesn't work? Because white space characters count as returns. So, gonna undo that real quick and see if these are tabs. So if a line starts with a tab one or more times, I'll get rid of that. There were no instances of that in the file. In this case, I'll just put a space in here, see if that works, and it does. So I'm not the super expert on this. You have to try a few things. And then just to make it easier on my eyes, I'm going to find anywhere you start a sentence with a carriage return, you hit enter and nothing else, like this, and just kind of trim that down. So I went from 1,000 whatever lines to now 167. I know that my card titles contain the titles, and I know that my spans followed by a $sign contain those. At this point, I'm closer to collecting my card titles and my $signs here. If a sentence starts with span, bracketed, closed, followed by a $sign, I'll get rid of the span and I'll just return the $sign. Place all. Then I have this all this text that comes after the $signs and symbols, etc. So if a digit, and I'm grouping the digit, is followed by, got to escape punctuation marks for the most part, the word span, close bracket, all the way to the end of a line, I'm going to replace this with just the digit. So now I've got the prices that I want. I can see where the prices are. They're not on these extremely long lines here. Next thing I'm going to do is get rid of this div class card module, whatever this is. So anywhere I see this in the regular expression, I'm going to, and before I do that, because I'm in regular expression mode, I need to escape all the punctuation marks. So backslash here, backslash here, backslash, 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 backslash. Hit that with a backslash. Anywhere I see that, I'm just going to replace it. And then it looks like after the titles, you have that escape div and several other HTML classes all the way to the end. Within this, you can see I have the instructor, the description, all these other settings, but I wasn't curious about that. I just wanted the title and I wanted the price. So the end of the title is typically a alphanumeric character. So if I find anything that looks like a number or a letter, followed by an escaped, or the end of a div container, all the way to the end of a line. It's period. Yeah, if I find anything that looks like that all the way to the end of a line, I'm just going to replace it with only the character that comes in front. So I'll hit replace all on that. And boom. I've got my courses, I've got my prices, and that is much easier to clean than a bunch of HTML. When you get to web pages that just keep loading and loading and loading, that's where I might employ something like this. Another practical application of this is, I don't know, I've taken some online courses or modules in the workplace personally, and you can click on containers and elements in the HTML, which are coded. They do have names, but they won't let you copy paste them. That's another time you can use something like this. This was a quick and dirty way to kind of gather some data that I wanted. So, you know, this may not be a robust process, but this is a way to web scrape, at least the way I know how to. So thanks for hearing me out.